What did the US tell me about Germany that is all sorts of wrong? Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living here in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Do you know the game Telephone, where you whisper one thing in one person's ear, they whisper it in another person's, and then you keep going until the last person says what they heard, and you see how similar it is to the original message? Well, some of those things we learned about Germany and the US are like that game of Telephone, where maybe an American visited Germany, came back and told about their experience, and then this story spread through others who have no firsthand experience in Germany, and what was true slowly starts to stray from reality. Or some things are just misunderstandings of the German language, or maybe some lies about Germany and the US are based on what Americans see in TV and movies about Germany. Well, there were things that we learned about Germany in the US that now that we have lived and worked and started a family in Germany over the last 5 years, we can either clarify or maybe even say is definitely false. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. A few American lies that I can confidently deny. I thought that based on what Americans say about Germans, these would be small in Germany, but I can confidently say they are actually huge. There is a complete misunderstanding of food portion sizes between Germany and the US. Americans say that European portion sizes in general are crazy small, and Germans say equally as much that American portion sizes are way too big. So the first lie actually goes both ways, because I am here to tell you this isn't true for either country. Generally. Sometimes. No, of course there are exceptions, and I think everybody has anecdotal examples of meals they had in either country that seem to confirm these stereotypes about the other, but I am telling you that as an American who has eaten meals in the US for decades and all across Germany for the last 5 years, typically 3 times a day, so just do the math, that's a lot of portions. German portion sizes have been a huge shock to me, but not for being small. I'm talking about the schnitzels that are the sizes of huge platters, mountains of spätzle, Flintstone-sized pork knuckles, and white asparagus as thick as, well, something really thick. One exception I will say is that I have found pizzas to nearly always be smaller than what I would expect in the US, but overall, if the dinner portion sizes aren't actually larger than what I would get in an American restaurant generally, I can attest to the fact that I have never or rarely left a German restaurant still hungry, as their portion sizes definitely aren't generally any smaller than American restaurants. Someone might also point out the absurdly large beers that Germans nurse during Oktoberfest or in a Bavarian beer garden. Not so small as that portion, eh? Or what about in our region where they serve wine schorles by the half liter, and often the wine far outweighs the amount of added carbonated water. Now, those aren't the norm across Germany though, and I will concede that beyond these two, drink portion sizes are generally larger in the US. For some reason, Americans do have a thing for absurdly large drinks.
Child size. How is this a child-size soda?
Well, it's roughly the size of a 2-year-old child if the child were liquefied.
And we even know people who it is part of their daily routine to go to Sonic Drive-In and get a Route 44 drink, which is 44 ounces or roughly 1.3 liters of drink. Or I'm sure you've seen this trend of people carrying around massive Stanley water jugs, something that you will never see in Germany. So in conclusion, food portion sizes, meh. Not that different in my opinion. Drink sizes, yeah, okay. Outside of Oktoberfest and huge portions of wine in the vaults, the US does have Germany outmatched there, perhaps. When you imagine a dream German vacation, I bet what you imagine is something like this. Wait, really? You don't think of pina coladas and beach volleyball? Well, maybe that's because you have fallen victim to a lie Americans believe about Germany, and that is that this is all that Germany looks like. If you look at a map of the American occupation zone after World War II, you will see that it almost perfectly aligns with that of the borders of the German state of Bavaria. Therefore, there is a theory that Americans only think of Bavaria when they think of Germany because this is where the most Americans were stationed. This is where postcards were being sent back home from, and therefore it just stuck. I don't know what the rest of the world's excuse is for their obsession with Oktoberfest, but this is not all of Germany. In fact, when we moved here, we were almost shocked to learn that Germany has beaches and islands way up north that Germans love to vacation at for beach holidays. That is, if they aren't flying to Mallorca, of course. I have to be honest and say that we have still not managed to do this, but on your next trip to Germany, maybe look beyond the stereotypes and enjoy going to a German beach perhaps. And a pro tip, Germans mark the best beaches with a German rating of FKK. Don't ask what it means, just know it means that those are the beaches you have to check out. Is living more expensive in Germany than in the US? Well, one very specific thing my American friends and family said when they heard we were moving to Germany was that we should consider buying a luxury German car while we live over here and ship it home because luxury German cars are cheaper in Germany and it would still be cheaper to buy one there and ship it back to the US than to buy these German cars in the US. And this is a fairly commonly held belief in the US. And to be honest, you would think this might be the case because you would be cutting out shipping and import fees. Also, it did seem to be confirmed when we first moved here just by the rate at which we saw Audis, BMWs, and Mercedes driving around the German Autobahn than what we were used to seeing in the US, where those are pretty rare to see in the wild. In fact, if we look at the most popular cars to buy in both countries, we see that not a single German car is in the top 10 in the US, whereas in Germany, in the top 10, we see a Mercedes and BMW model. So we thought people were buying whatever was affordable in both countries. Now, I have to admit to you that I know absolutely nothing about cars. I just know that Americans talk about BMW, Mercedes, Audis, etc. as very expensive and nice cars, but I couldn't tell you why personally. I've never looked into the price of these cars and we never really had any intention of buying a German luxury car to send back to the States. However, I do spend money in Germany on other things, and I know that Germany has quite a high value added tax at 19%, and that is the major factor that Americans don't consider when talking about the prices of cars in Germany versus in the US. If we look just at the base price of some cars, well, this lie might have some truth to it. For example, let's look at this Audi. The base price can be roughly the same, but to be specific, 0.9% more expensive in the US. In general, it's hard to compare prices between the US and Germany because every US state has their own way of adding taxes to purchase, and those taxes vary in amount. But in general, you can definitely say that the amount of tax added to a car purchase is significantly less than in Germany. In fact, so much so that if we look at a rough average sales tax of 6.5% in the US, the price of the car becomes 10% cheaper to buy in the US once taxes are applied and we find out the final price. So are German cars cheaper in Germany? Leider nein. Is German actually hard to learn? Well, the amount of lies and misunderstandings Americans have about the German language definitely doesn't help one trying to learn it. I once talked about how there is a misunderstanding by many Americans that umlauts, the little dots over German letters, are just accent marks and show how a word should be pronounced, and that's their only impact. Americans who don't know how to, for example, type these dots often will just leave them off and not realize those aren't just dots over a letter, but actually are parts of a completely different letter and can totally change that word into another one because you've actually spelled a new word. Well, another subtle, interesting lie Americans believe about a specific German word is that these are called Lederhosen. Now, I have C1 level German, and I even often can get confused by how to pluralize a German word since there are so many different ways of doing it in German. So there is no way I can expect an American who has no experience with German to know that these aren't called Lederhosen, but rather Lederhose. These are Lederhosen. Honestly, I think this is pretty trivial, but it is weirdly so ingrained in the American psyche that this N is simply part of this word that when I learned German, I was blown away to learn that we all say this wrong all the time, and I still find it hard to leave that N off the word when this word comes up in conversation, and I am talking about a singular pair of Lederhose. I I always like to add a random question of the week to the end of my videos to see who actually makes it to the end of my videos, and this video will be no different, so hold on to the end to find out what that is. But in this video, I want to see who made it this far, so I am also going to sneak in here a huge announcement that ties into another lie Americans believe about Germany, and the announcement is that Aubrey is pregnant again with our second son. To briefly answer a few questions I anticipate getting: no, he will not also be named after me like our first son was. Yes, he will automatically be a German and American citizen. No, I will not be changing my channel name to Passport 4, and yes, Aubrey's doing great and the pregnancy is going very well. But what does this have to do with lies Americans believe about Germany? Well, no, I'm not lying about the pregnancy. We really are expecting another baby, but there is a general lie that really Europe as a whole is a very child-unfriendly place. What do I mean by child-friendly or unfriendly? What I mean is, are children welcome in public? Do people stare or grumble when you walk in a restaurant with children? Are there spaces made where families can enjoy time out and about amongst people without children? Many Americans have stories where they went to Europe and had negative experiences with Europeans interacting with their children, and say that Europe is a very unfriendly place for families or to children specifically. Or you can look at how birth rates in Germany are decreasing dramatically, and you might think this is because Germans don't like kids and therefore don't want them. However, I have to say that I haven't had this experience at all, and I believe this is a lie. Based on our personal experiences, yes, there are places we maybe don't go to because of our children, like restaurants that are quieter, higher end, or we don't take them to see an opera yet. But we feel like specifically Germany is very well set up for families and children to be welcome and have a great time. One example is German Biergartens. Biergärten, if we want to use proper German plural rules. When my parents first came to visit and I told them I wanted to take them to our favorite local beer garden, they weren't too sure if they wanted to go to a bar, as they didn't know what to expect or what a beer garden really was. I explained to them, no, these often have a playground attached to them and are a place for families to hang out and play, not a seedy bar like they were maybe thinking. Or something that doesn't exist in a lot of the US are city or town squares or pedestrian streets where parents can sit at a restaurant or cafe outside while their kids play near them chasing pigeons or something. Or travel is also set up well for families, and trains often have a special car where they have spaces for children to play and make noise. Also, we may have a particularly cute kid, or we may just be extraordinary parents, but everywhere we go, we have Germans coming up being sweet to our son, telling him how handsome he is, and saying cute little things, or restaurants giving him little treats. When we go to the butcher always cuts off a small piece of sausage for him to snack on for free. Germans overall make our son feel very welcome everywhere we go. Overall, I really feel bad for those that have had bad experiences with kids in Germany or Europe as a whole, because we have had the opposite experience and feel like Germany and other European countries are very child-friendly environments where we feel comfortable with children. But let me know your experiences. Do you also feel like Germany is child-friendly, or what kind of bad experiences have you had in Europe that made you feel like it wasn't child-friendly? To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is: would you ever consider having a snake as a pet? Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in my next video. Now I have C1 level German, and I have C1 level German, and I even often can get to briefly answer a few questions I anticipate getting.